So take us back to 1997. You said yes. What happened? What was going on? And how did faith in your lives and the church grow?
Yeah, it was, again, busy, with all the family and jobs and keeping up with all of that. But we knew God had spoken. We said yes, and so now it was, okay, God, where? Where are we going? And we ended up southeast San Antonio and just knew that this was where God wanted us. It was just, you just knew it in your heart. Even though it was very familiar and we had lived in the community, it was something that God said, here's where I want you to plant.
Well, that's the crazy thing, though, is like in 1997, like church planting was not a thing.
Yeah.
Like set up in like mobile church, that was like not a thing. Like,
actually, it wasn't.
mom and dad were like innovators in the
Pioneering,
church planting space, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was crazy. I think it was just I just remember it's kind of like, you do whatever you got to do to make sure church happens, right? Dad's dressed up like Peter with his blazing white legs showing, and we're just like, hallelujah. Let's do
Literally,
this.
everybody was commissioned to do something.
Yeah.
And it really didn't matter
It
if
was
they could
different
do
every
it or
week.
not.
Yeah.
Just figure it out.
Yeah.
And
You want to sing a special for offering? Go for it.
Yep.
I remember most from like this period of time, as we mentioned it earlier, but you said, when mom and dad set us down and we're like, hey, we're starting a church. It wasn't completely out of left field because, obviously they had been serving in church all their lives. We knew, our heritage and which is funny that they started at Heritage, but I remember in that moment thinking, man, like this is big.
Yeah.
Like not just that this is a big decision, but I remember being like in high school, we're starting a church and just getting a sense of like, man, this is bigger than just starting a church. Like this, I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't completely understand it until now, sitting in this moment. Like going back to that time and sitting there and being like, holy crap, we're starting a church, right? But I remember thinking like this is a generational decision.
yeah, I didn't
That's
think
crazy.
that. I was thinking, man, maybe we don't go to church as much as we did before. Praise God.
Boy, were we wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was literally I remember thinking like, man, what are we gonna have to do? Like, what does this mean? Like, what does that even mean, starting a church? I just remember
Little
thinking,
did I
like,
know I'd play Jesus for every Easter until the time I left the house.
Britt, you're the palest. You're gonna be Jesus.
Yes, the blood reflects
I
on your
truly
skin.
embraced
Really
it.
well.
I went all in. By my last performance, I had it down pat.
Man.
Yeah.
Passion of the Christ and our Easter production are very similar. Very similar.
So we started looking for a building, and in that day and time, and still really today, there wasn't a lot of commercial buildings around. So we went to the school district, to East Central School District, and we asked to be able to rent or lease the Heritage Middle School cafeteria. And they gave us that opportunity. So it was exciting. We now had a location. We now could advertise that. We talk about it. And we started out on October 5th, 1997. Moved all of our equipment in, set up chairs, got ready, hung the banner out on the fence on Sulphur Springs Road, and said, here we are, appointed by God and anointed by the Holy Spirit to bring this community the love of Jesus Christ.
Remember, we canvassed the community. We passed out 1,200 flyers.
Yep, with
Boys,
the help.
our sons,
Yeah.
jumped in and out of the vehicle as we drove along and passed out the flyers.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And we had a family come,
And we did.
and we're still good friends with them.
And they are still a part of this in many ways. And so we did. We opened up and for 2 years actually held services there. We saw people come. We saw people receive Jesus. We saw people baptized in the Holy Spirit and in water. And it was a beautiful time for us because obviously, the I guess, joy that we were getting out of that, because we knew we were in the perfect will of God. We had answered the call. We stepped out in faith.
Especially going to church starting the church in Heritage, and it was the first year actually Heritage opened up. So we were the first 8th grade class into Heritage. So we're going to church on Sunday and then class on Monday. So ministry was just like all the time in this one place. So it's always been kind of that way. Is like 7 days a week, 365 is the reality of what life is. But yeah, it was a fun time. A lot of sacrifice, watching mom and dad sacrifice.
But when mom and dad started church, it was like, dang, okay, it's us. Like we got to show up. We got to, we don't show up. Nobody's having church.
Set up, show
Yeah.
up, and
So like Sunday morning, let's look at Sunday morning Heritage Middle School. What does like a Sunday morning starting the church look like? Y'all mentioned a little bit setup, but what does setup really mean?
well, setting up the signs out front to let everybody know where to go park at. That was one of the things. I think that's how Scott saw the church when he was driving by. He saw the sign.
Yeah, we zip tied it right to the metal
Zip tied it
fence.
to the front. I remember, putting it out and then taking it down at the end of the day. We'd pull up in the little round circle of Heritage and start whatever we had to take out for the day, start taking it in. They had chairs already there. So it was a matter of just like getting people, as far as I remember, just people grabbing chairs from the side wherever they were, pushing tables back, like the
Cafeteria
lunch tables, the
Listen,
cafeteria tables.
the great thing
back.
about those chairs, though, is they were the typical middle school plastic with the sliders on the
Yeah.
bottom, so you could just slide them. They're not like
Easy setup.
not like church chairs these days.
No.
Yeah, sound equipment in,
Oh,
the
yeah.
piano in. I mean, all that stuff. That was, I can't remember if we were bringing it over on a trailer. Set up, get all the equipment in, get the chair set up.
The
and
kids
then-
was in the teacher's lounge. That's
Yeah.
where we had kids. It was like Heritage teacher lounge, and then there was that back room that was connected to it. There was like the dark room that I don't know. The babies went in. I don't know, but
Oh, I think that was like their workroom, right? Because wasn't there like a big cutter in there or
Yeah,
something like that? They're like,
yeah.
don't go in there and cut your fingers off or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, that was
I
their
remember because I was really young.
I remember, well, before I was involved, I remember walking in for the first time. And that was at Heritage Middle School. My brother and sister-in-law were attending. And you can't even imagine the environment walking into something like that. I had not been raised in church, and so I'm 30 years old. I was just walking out of a 3-day party, walking into this atmosphere. And so we'll just say it was a very sobering moment and leave it at that. I knew that it was real, but it was very overwhelming because there was just a lot of love, and you could feel the Spirit of God there. how do you say, I'm not a fan of it, but I am. Like, it's something you want, but you were so far from deserving it, And man, it was just real, and it was almost too real, and it was so abrupt. It was on an Easter Sunday, and I remember Pastor Stephen was giving an altar call, and he was asking people to write their sins on Post-it notes and put it up on a big wooden cross. And obviously, I didn't think there was enough Post-it notes for me, so I did not participate that day. But, you can't shake an experience like that.
I got a call from the district office in September of 1999, and the district office said, hey, your lease is coming up in October, and I said, okay, can I renew my lease? And they were like, no. District policy is you can only lease here for 2 years. And so I was walking out of that office like, okay, what are we going to do now? Because for 2 years we had this great environment and atmosphere that was happening, things were moving forward, but now we had to go back out and kind of start from ground up again and figure out what to do. Mm-hmm. Well, in that point in time, we had a worship leader by the name of Charlie Talamantes, who actually has started his own church now in the community as well, so praise God for that. And but he had been renting some videos from a video store, Rent and Go video store on Highway 87 East in China Grove, Texas. And he came to me because I had announced that kind of to the church. Hey, we're going to have to be moving. We need to find a location. We've got less than 30 days to make this happen. And he came to me the following Sunday after I made that announcement. He said, Pastor, I've got this video store over here. I talked to the owner this week, and he's closing the store. and it was built for a church, and he had bought the building when the church went away, and he wanted to lease the building out. And so I said, well, give me his number because I need to call him first thing in the morning. And so I did. I got his number, called the owner, and I said, I need to talk with you. He said, hey, I'm at the store right now if you want to come by. And I said, great, I'll be there in less than 30 minutes. I was at home at the time. And so I drove over, met with him. We made an agreement to rent that building. And,
as long as we cleaned it out.
Right.
We went from Heritage and we had to move into our next building. And remember that time that Mom and Dad drove us up to this and we're like, all right, this is our new church. Walked us in and it was a video. A
Rent and Go video store.
Rent and Go video store.
That's right.
And it was hard to even imagine a space. I think that's where I've been so impressed over all these years. To walk into a space and for them multiple times to be able to be like, all right, this is going to be here. This is going to be that. This is going to be, and you're just like, I just see videos and shelves. Like, that's all I see. And we actually built out a video store, took everything out, took the shelves out, took it to the owner's house, put it in his garage, and built a whole wall-in foyer / sidewall for classrooms. And we started our second year or third year. We were 2 years at Heritage, moved over to the video store. And remember, we built off the front porch that's still there today.
Yep.
It looks great. I mean, it still looks like the way we
Still
built it.
Still a church.
It's still a church, yeah. It's still a church today.
Which is crazy because I remember, moving into that building, like you said, and pulling all the stuff out of the Rent and Go video store and finding out like, this little video store in China Grove isn't very wholesome because it's got a whole section dedicated to some shady stuff, right? And I remember Mom just like, boys, get that, it was. But I remember
But at
thinking,
the same time, they were like, but still, you have to get all the videos out. It's like,
Well, we didn't know how many videos there really were.
Yeah.
Like,
There
he
were
had the video
thousands.
store, but behind the closed doors,
Yeah.
there were so many videos.
There were thousands of videos.
And he wanted
in
them
there.
all boxed to save.
And they were categorized too.
Yeah,
If you remember,
yeah.
we had to categorize them for him, put them in a box, and take them, some of them to his house, and then
Yep.
we took some of them to, because he had some other video stores in different
We
locations.
did delivery for him and everything.
We did.
To
We
get the
delivered
building
that.
cleared out.
And
Yep.
then we also took the actual stands, the props that he had in there. We took those to wherever he wanted them. And then once we got that cleaned out, I mean, and everybody came to help out.
Yeah. But we had to be careful because of the X-rated ones.
Well, yeah, we had to.
we had to make sure that we kind of put those in cardboard boxes and put them
Right,
away,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was
funny.
that.
It was
But,
funny.
So anyway, we went in, and then we had to remodel basically the building because it really wasn't set up. We had to put in some new walls. We had to tear down some walls, and then we also wanted to put a little porch on the front of it to kind of create some kind of windbreak and sunbreak and of course rain covering over that.
Oh, I thought it was just to make it look nicer.
Well, it was that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted to make it look nicer.
Right,
And
right.
so we got the men in the church came out on a couple of Saturdays, and we built that and put that up, painted the building inside and out, and just had a great time. It was a little bit of a sometimes difficult when it rained a lot because it was in a low spot. I always wanted to preach on Peter walking on the water that Sunday when we had water in the parking lot, but people I don't know if they'd have thought that was funny or not. I did. And we stayed there for 5 years. God began to speak to you and I about fasting. About the community and what we were going to do in the community and how he wanted to use Live the Life Church there. And so we began a fast, and it was a 40-day fast. It's the first time I think we had ever done a 40-day fast. We've fasted before in the past, but not for 40 days. And when we actually, it was going to be a Sunday that we were going to finish that 40-day fast. On that Sunday, one of the families in the church had some good friends that were missionaries, and they wanted to meet us. And so they came to church with them on that Sunday, and we said, yeah, we'll go out to eat after service. Well, after a 40-day fast, you don't eat very much
Right.
on that first meal. So I think we had a salad and
Something like that,
some
yeah.
tea or something because we weren't about to load up. But what happened with that was they were doing great missions work in India at the time. They were had been going to India for several years, had some great connections there, and they were wanting to take a team of people into India and do some conferences with them, with the pastors and leaders of some of the Indian churches. And so we were like, you know what, let's do this. Let's do it. And so I started talking about that to the church, and then people started saying, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. Now, how many people did we have in the church at that time?
We had about 40
40 people in the church.
coming on a regular basis. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I started talking about taking a team to India. And out of the 40 people, 10 of us went in January of 2004 to India. Now, that in itself is a big feat to get 10 people on there first, because no one had ever been on a mission trip outside of the continental United States. So to get them to travel halfway around the world to a country and a nation they'd never been on a faith promise.
Yeah.
Because we felt like that God was telling us, if you will take some resources that I'm going to give you, or basically we're going to work for,
Yeah, we did.
and you'll plant seeds on the other side of the world in this nation, this country of Israel, of India, I'm going to do a work here in your community.
Yeah.
And so,
it took almost $30,000.
yeah,
So, right,
for 10 of us to go.
Right.
And we did all kinds of fundraisers to make that happen. We sold popcorn. We sold Krispy Kreme donuts.
and we would literally sell those donuts for a profit
Yeah.
as people were coming into Walmart. It was
Yeah.
crazy, but we sold a lot. I mean, I wish I could remember, but I do know that a huge part of that budget came in from selling those donuts. And also we would do lunch on Sunday.
Right.
We would cook a full meal and offer it for people to come in and eat for $5 after service instead
Right.
of going out to eat.
Yep.
And we were able to raise those funds.
Like, I don't think we should breeze over that and the monumental step that was, because we had never done overseas missions. We'd done to Mexico a couple times. Houston, downtown San Antonio missions.
Big time.
Yeah, and so we've done some stuff, but then all of a sudden they come to us and we're going to India,
Yeah.
right? And it was
Yeah.
like, what? And then
Yeah.
also the price tag.
Yeah.
of
$30,000.
missions. Yeah, $30,000.
15 people, $2,000 a piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think our budget inside the church was probably 40,000 at
For
the
the
moment
year.
in time. So I'm like,
Annual.
Yeah, for the year.
the annual budget for the church for
Yeah.
the year is probably 40,000,
We're
and
gonna double the budget.
we're gonna do 30,000 for a trip. Or like,
But I think that's
that's a lot of donuts we had to sell.
We sold a lot of
We
donuts.
sold
Cars
a lot
washed.
of Krispy Kreme
I
donuts.
still have a scar on my shoulder from a sunburn from some car washes.
Oh yeah, the car washes.
car wash.
Boiled
Forgive
over.
us all those cars that we
Yeah, but Brent,
Scratched up.
Slightly damaged.
lives are transformed. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it though, and I think that's where I didn't want to breeze over that, because at that time it was we were operating on still mom and dad's paycheck
Yeah.
to fund the ministry. I remember, just overhearing the monthly expenses. There were still times they were having to use their own money to keep the church open. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they say India, and you said it, which I think is important to note, is God spoke to us and said, if we plant seeds in foreign soil,
Yeah.
He will reap a harvest where we are
Yeah.
at.
It was on Halloween, and I experienced a very radical salvation experience. And Pastor and Melissa and the church happened to be there that night. And by that time, we were already in the little video store out in China Grove. And walking into that building was an entirely different experience now post-salvation. It literally happened on a Sunday night. And it was somewhere like a mix between a Saul and Paul moment and a Jerry Springer moment, and God became a reality to me. And then stepping into a church where the Spirit of God was a reality, there was just a lot of change that happened very, very quickly. And not just a spiritual change, but even just dynamic of people that I'm around. It was an immediate taking in. It was an immediate acceptance. It was an immediate family that was just very foreign to me. And you just don't get over things like that. You can't shake things like that. And you can't fabricate them, you know. Having that radical experience, a year later going on to a Bible college that was on fire. It was birthed out of revival. And of course I was homesick. You know, every weekend I got an opportunity. I would drive back to church and we would talk about, you know, what the Lord was doing. And even within the church, you know, and the church was gaining numbers. The growth was probably between somewhere, I watched it go from between about 60 to almost 100, and the walls were just, it was wall-to-wall people, and we were quickly growing. And I remember God being very clear when he made a statement that said, sow in India and I'll reap a harvest for you in San Antonio. And India was so far out of anything that we could even imagine. We would have picked Mexico, or we would have picked, you know, to adopt a place that would be local to us. So we didn't understand it. And once again, we didn't understand it. And yet we were obedient to what he was asking us to do. And we saw the fruit of that. We saw the fruit of that when we were obedient, and that he showed up in a very big way, and the growth started happening.
We did a vacation Bible school, and at the end of that I said, let's go ahead and just invite all the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever, because we were having probably 60, 70 kids at our vacation Bible school. And I want to do a Sunday morning celebration of all the things that the kids have experienced during Vacation Bible School. Well, little did I know that the little building, we always call it our little church, because the little building that we were in, if you had every seat taken, it had about 80 spaces in there. And that Sunday, there was over 100 people for that Vacation Bible School celebration. They were lined up against the wall, standing in the lobby and in the back. And now, a part of our family, Charlie and Mary Mullaney, had come to be a part of that because their daughters, who are now, a couple of them are my daughter-in-laws, were working with our sons in the Vacation Bible School. And Charlie came to me after service and he said, Steve, I don't know what you're going to do. You can't grow here anymore. And I said, I know, Charlie, but there's a church down the road that I've already looked at, I've been praying about, and we're really trusting God for that. And he said, well, I want to help you in any way I can. And so we just started talking back and forth.
Do you remember the story? So my side of remembering this transition was, and this is the big story, I remember Charlie Mullaney, I was dating my wife back then, Jacqueline Mullaney. He comes to our Easter service, I believe it was, and we
At the small
At the
church.
rent and go,
at the
yeah.
rental.
We packed it out with
packed
80
it out.
people in
All the
there.
way.
Packed it out.
I'm
There was
almost 100%.
60
Maybe
people
82.
in that
no,
place.
Maybe 82.
No, seriously, that day was 110 or 111 is the number. Because I remember Charlie commenting on
Packed.
he was like, how many people? Because it was packed, and he's never seen it. Like, I think it was his first time at our church. But Charlie was always the guy. When I was dating Jacqueline, he donated. He was the first person that ever donated like over $1,000 to our church, and we were like, we're getting new floors, woo, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But long story short, he comes to the Easter service, and he's talking to me about it. But I think he gets with Dad, and he's like, we need to get you a new building. And then he started working with Dad on like helping get financing, writing the articles, and all that kind of stuff. But that's just always been who he is. That's what I remember.
Yeah, well, again, we would drive by the church, and one particular day, we drove by and there was a for sale sign in the yard out close to the street, and we're like, oh no, what's happening? And so I took the number down from the realtor and went back home and called him and said, hey, I saw the for sale sign, what's the story? And he just began to share with me, like any realtor, the building and the property. We have 5 acres here with the building and that. So I got off the phone, I drove back over, walked in the door over here on the side and down the hallway, and sure enough, the secretary was still in the office here, and I just asked, I said, do you mind if I just walk through the building? I told her who I was. I said, I pastor a church just right out here in China Grove, and we're looking for a building, and we want to stay in the vicinity, in the community that we're in. And so she said, yeah, go ahead, just take your time. There's nobody else here. And so I did. I kind of just looked down one of the hallways, but came walking back down the hall, opened the door to the sanctuary, walked into it just barely and briefly, and began to pray. I just felt like I needed to pray over the building. And then at that moment in time, I felt like God was saying to me, I'm going to give you this building. And that was kind of, I was kind of maybe questioning God a little bit. I'm saying, okay, wait a minute, God. I have a little small building with 40 people, and I'm looking at a sanctuary that will hold 500 people. That is a little bit different for me, at least at that point in time in my life. And so I went back home. I called the guy back. And so I said, well, okay, just tell me this now that I know all the other details. You've left out one major one. How much does it cost? And he said, he gave me the number, and it was, for me, astronomical, $980,000. And I told him, I said, okay, wait, stop right there. That's way out of our budget. So I kind of took that and I just put it in my heart. And I didn't understand everything at that moment in time.
Yeah. And you didn't say anything.
And I didn't say anything
to me. I had no idea that he had even seen the building.
Right.
And 3 years later, you came through and we needed to look again. Mm-hmm. And then you said, well, there's a building, and I had no idea. And when you told me, I was like, I don't know about that building, but the first time you brought me in, I was amazed.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful sanctuary.
Yeah.
I remember.
It was
like, wow.
It's different than what you see now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that he says that when driving to the east, he saw the building over there, and God told him, like, that's their building.
Yeah.
And then the confirmation was that God had already told Dad the same thing, like, months before. He hadn't told anybody.
Yep.
But Charlie showing up, seeing like busting out of that little place, and then the confirmation between each other. I believe, Dad, you can correct us if we're wrong, but I believe that's how the story went. It was like two men of faith, like God confirming in them.
Wow. So cool.
And then having the boldness just to go after it, and like, no, God said that's ours. And all of the steps later of hey, no, this building's worth $1.2 million and they'll never take this for it. No, keep offering. No, God said it's yours, this price. And so that's what I remember about it. Yeah.
Dad already walked into the church, the building you guys are in right now.
Yeah.
He already walked in. He had a conversation with them, said, what are you guys doing with the building? They said X, Y, and Z, then it turned into a mosque, I think, for a while.
Yeah, it was.
And then, but it was years of faith, believing, trusting God, praying over it. God brings the right person, has the right skill set to navigate the waters of unknown that, Dad was operating in as a pastor and, a computer, whatever, what was that? Computer networking.
But I think one key thing that you have to also know here is that before I ever made an offer on this building, I went to the church, I went to the people, and I said, guys, we have an opportunity, but we have to be willing to do this together. And I'm going to ask you to, tonight, it was on a Wednesday night that we were meeting, I said, tonight I want you to, we're all going to kind of find our separate places to pray for a little bit. And I gave them slips of paper, and I said, I want you to write down a number that you would want to be comfortable hearing God say, this is what you're going to pay for the building. And so we did, and some people got up, moved out of their seats, found different places. We prayed for about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30, I don't remember now exactly. Came back together, and I gathered the slips of paper up, and I began to open them. And we had everything from $300,000 to $380,000 or something like that. And so I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to tell them we're offering $300,000 for the building. And of course, when I called the realtor and told him that we were offering $300,000 for the building, he did what most realtors did and began to scream to the top of his lungs, "That's crazy, that's $1 million building." And I said, "Yeah, I know, but it's God's building, it's not yours." And so eventually we ended up agreeing on a note for this building at $375,000. Again, 3 years earlier, they wanted $980,000. But those who wait upon the Lord, He always will respond if you will listen to that still small voice and use faith. Because now we had the opportunity to move into a building that had so much potential.
Yep.
And when I was standing over there on the side of this sanctuary that day that I walked in and began to pray over this building, I promised God, I said, "God, if you will give us this building, I will make sure that every ministry that can come out of a building, out of a ministry will happen." And so when we got in here, I knew I had to fulfill that promise, and we started an after-school program pretty soon after we got in here, because we wanted to reach our kids that were in our community and continue to help them see that there was something different that they could believe in and work towards.
We've always been known as a church that had a lot of young people.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's our heart. We were youth leaders before, we told those stories about being involved with youth. And so, not that we don't love everybody, but we've always been young at heart and really wanted to see a young person. It's very common for us to involve young people at age 12 or 13 to already be on our main worship team, to see their gifts and talents be enhanced and God to give them those gifts and talents that they can start using.
Right.
We've always been open to receiving, the young people into the services.
Yep.
And giftings, using their giftings.
Yep. We had a charter school in the building for a while. Again, some good friends of ours, Tom and Deanna Koger, at that time were Jubilee Academy, and we started a charter school, and we had 100+ kids in our charter school program. And then just other ministries like the Vacation Bible Schools that we still did. We had a dance program in our after-school program where that blossomed forth, and we actually went and did work through the AT&T Center and held a weekend dance performance.
Anti-bullying.
Anti-bullying was the title of it, rally there. So again, you just step forward in faith. Believe that all things are possible. It's Scripture, it's the Word, but it is actually living Word. And never ever doubt what God can do with one small seed of faith.
For the last 25 years, I've seen nothing but increase and change in a very good way. I remember stepping in at 1997 as a visitor to the church at Heritage Middle School. And I remember going in 1999 to the small church, being radically saved at a Halloween event. I remember being called to Bible college a year after that in Pensacola, Florida, attending there for 2 years. And when I returned, our church was still experiencing the same thing we were experiencing in Pensacola, Florida. And that was signs, wonders, miracles, and just an outpouring of God's presence. I remember the increase of people, and so we had to move to a bigger building. And I remember seeing it empty, and I think significantly would want people to understand about this is that even just sitting here, we're sitting on chairs that maybe some of us didn't raise money for. We're standing on carpet that we had nothing to do with. We didn't paint that stage or that wall. We didn't tear down the wall and build a backdrop. And I think that we've always tried to be good stewards of everything. And with that, we've seen the increase in every area. And so as we stand on the shoulders of giants, or we're eating fruit from a field we didn't plow, then my question would be to you is, what will you do with my ceiling? What will you do with the platform that you've been given in order to move it forward?
Live the Life has helped us with our marriage and raising our family.
LTL has helped me grow in my faith. I also feel like my relationship with Christ has gotten closer and stronger. I also feel like I'm getting closer to my calling.
Live the Life.Church has helped me dive into my creativity.
Live the Life has helped me grow in my confidence.
Live the Life.Church has helped me grow in my faith.
LTL has helped me grow my relationship with Jesus while also strengthening my faith and helping me get one step closer to my calling.
LTL has helped me grow in my family relationships.
LTL has helped me grow in my leadership.
LTL has helped me grow in my relationship with Jesus and given me a group of friends and community to be thankful for.
Live the Life has helped me with my leadership.
Live the Life has helped me to understand just how big and how powerful God's love really is.
LTL has helped me grow in community with other believers. Just making friends and just hearing about a little bit about their journey through faith has been a great joy.
Live the Life has helped me grow in my faith.
Live the Life has helped me grow where I was.
LTL has helped me grow by teaching me what it means to have a legacy and helping me become the father that I am today.
And LTL has helped me grow by becoming a better mother, a better woman, a better friend.
LTL has helped me grow in my relationship with Jesus and my calling.
Live the Life has helped me grow in my leadership.